Thank you. And your next question is directed to you first, Mr. Cobb. As Maury County State Representative, what is your vision of our economic future, and how will you work to attract more jobs to the community?
That's a great question, something I've been working on for the past 20 months. If you've been paying attention, 3 things I campaigned on 2 years ago was improving our road structure, making sure we fully fund pre-K and K through 12 education, but third and most important was providing a workforce training center for the people here in Maury County. We've accomplished all 3 of those goals in my first 18 to 20 months.
Please hold your applause.
And with that workforce center, we have to have an educated workforce. When I was on the county commission, Dr. Penn with MTSU did a study and said one thing that Maury County was lacking was a workforce training center. So I took those needs and addressed them and went to Nashville and sat down with the governor my first week and said, look, Maury County has GM and many suppliers, and one thing we're lacking is a place to train our workforce. We have a great community college, we have a great hospital, but we're missing a training center. And I was able to get $5 million funded in my first 2 years when the state of Tennessee was cutting $1.4 and $1.2 billion to the state budget. And we were able to find it because the governor and the legislature saw the need for that here in Maury County. But not only is it Maury County problem, it's a region problem, it's a state problem. When you talk about unemployment, if my opponent wants to put that on me, that's fine. But look across the nation. It's not just happening here in Maury County. But I tell you what I can control. I can control making sure that we fully fund education and making sure that that workforce training center has the needs and the tools to get things done and get people educated.
Thank you. Sheila?
Yes, my understanding, and I was looking at an article from, I think it was 2008, Ty, and my understanding is that at the beginning that training center was probably going to be here at Columbia State. At least that was your first dream about that. So I don't know what happened with that, but when you were elected, you said you will look at getting that training for us here at Columbia State. Yes, and I'm thankful we received a $5 million grant, and that grant does belong to us taxpayers, so we're thankful that we had a part in doing that also. So anytime there's a grant, we have to remember where the money comes from, and it comes from every one of us. Now, how are we going to get jobs here in Maury County? What are we going to do for the economics here in Maury County? We're going to lower our taxes. From the state level, we're going to quit taking money out of our municipalities and our cities to fund our shortfalls in the state legislature and in the state budget. So there are many ways to do this. Unless we quit regulating our businesses out of business, quit taxing them out of business, let them use their capital to create new jobs and hire workers. Maury County is a great place to live. We came here 25 years ago and we love Maury County. And one of the greatest things we can do is sell people on Maury County. Tell them what a wonderful place it is. Shop in our own stores. How many of us don't go to our mall and we see our stores going out of business daily? That falls on us, guys. We're the ones who have to make the economics in Maury County work. And I'm for each of you helping me do that, cutting those regulations, cutting taxes, limiting government on our small business, and let's make sure that the backbone of the United States of America is the backbone of Maury County.
Thank you. And time for rebuttals. Mr. Cobb.
Well, just to go back to your question about where I said I'd put that workforce training center, I would put it where it was the least expense to the taxpayers. Basically, Northfield is a school and college sitting empty. But I did say we would work that training center in partnership with Columbia State, Belmont, and all the Tennessee Board of Regents schools across the state of Tennessee. So when you talk about a grant, it was not a grant. It was $5 million that we worked hard to get funded in the state budget. There was no grant about it.
Thank you. Sheila.
And I have a question that at this particular moment, who is going to that technical school?
That center will be open to the public in 2011.
Okay. We believe that, and we're being told that. And does that depend on our cities helping with the funding? Mount Pleasant, Spring Hill, and Columbia?
That's a great question. And if you look, one of the things I did before we started the budgets this year was go to all local governments and ask them for funding. Got funding from the City of Columbia, City of Spring Hill, still waiting by Maury County Commission, but also got funding from Mount Pleasant, who's been hit the hardest. So I'm proud of 3 out of 4 governments.
Excuse me. I would love for us to have an interactive debate, but we'd be here all night.
That's true.
And I love the responses and all, but you know, if Mr. Fletcher and the school would allow, we can have us a nice long debate one day. But I do thank you for your responses. Question number 3 is directed at Ms. Butt first. Tennessee has the nation's highest sales tax. Is there any way to lower the sales tax? And if so, how would this be accomplished?
You know, I think every one of us, of course, would love to lower our taxes. We would love to lower our sales taxes. But the fact is, if we look at lowering that sales tax, then we're going to have to look at an income tax, you know, and we definitely will never do that for the state of Tennessee. The grocery tax, the tax on food, that's an equitable tax. It's a consumption tax. If you buy more or less, then you pay more or less. That's something that we may have to stay with at this moment. In the future, would that be something we would want to look at? Yes, we would want to look at cutting our taxes like that. But at this moment, we couldn't because we don't want a state income tax. The Halls tax, if any of you are familiar with that, is already a tax on bonds and income that people are getting. So in some form, put in 1929, we already have an income tax on people who have bond money, capital growth. So we don't want to look at that. So that's the way I would have to look at that at this time.
Thank you. And, oh, by the way, you guys, we're not storing up minutes, so if you cut it short, we don't get them back.
Gotcha.
Mr. Cobb.
Go ahead and repeat the question one more time.
Tennessee has the nation's highest sales tax. Is there any way to lower the sales tax? And if so, how would this be accomplished?
During these tough economic times, it would be almost impossible to lower the sales tax without hitting education and some of the key important programs that we have in this state. But you have to look at us compared to other states. We're one of the best managed states in the country, like I said, with $600 million in reserves fund. Some states have an income tax, they have a sales tax, and several other taxes. But it gets back to how you manage your money. And the state of Tennessee is managed well. Yes, we're in tough times, but I'm glad we're able to have $600 million in reserve in case we need them, because we manage your tax dollars wisely. Now, when you look at the sales tax, when the economy's down, of course, we know that the sales are down, which brings in less revenue, which is why we've had to cut $1.2 billion in my first year, and then last year, $1.4 billion. So you've had a total of $2.5 billion cut to the state budget, which now gets to about $28 billion. We've managed well, but the number one thing I have to do before I come home at the end of the session is to balance a budget. That's our number one responsibility as legislatures. We have to pass a balanced budget. We can't print money like Washington. We have to manage your tax dollars wisely, and I'm doing that. But during these tough economic times, there's no way we can get around with lowering the sales tax without hitting key programs, and I'm not going to do that.
Thank you. And Ms. Butt, rebuttal.
Yes, I think it's admirable that Ty is saying that he balances the budget every year, because we do have a state amendment which says we have to balance the budget every year. And even though we have $600 million in reserve, we had $900 million until we've had to use $300 million of it in the past year. So yes, we do have to keep balancing our budget. And as your state representative, I would also make sure that happens, because there is an amendment that says we have to do that.
Thank you.
I just think it's important when you talk about balancing a budget and you talk about cutting, remember key programs that affect Murray Regional Medical Center, Columbia State Community College, like Centerstone. Remember the programs like pre-K that help our young kids who can't afford or have parents at home that can watch them, that are getting education at an age below kindergarten. So there's key programs that you have to remember when you're cutting. And on my watch, I don't want that to happen.
Thank you. And the next question, Mr. Cobb, you will answer first. Rising tuition is making it increasingly difficult for Tennessee parents to send their children to state colleges and universities. If elected, what would you do to make higher education more affordable? Mr. Cobb.
It's a great question, and having a college here at home, Columbia State Community College, like I said when I opened, has helped many lives, mine included, to get a jump starting, at least get an associate's degree. But look at the numbers. 16% of the people in Maury County have an associate's degree. 25% have a bachelor's degree. So the numbers are low. We've got to fully fund education, and I'm committed to that. But overall, education is the key. We're in a district where unemployment has skyrocketed. We've lost suppliers, we've lost GM, but we're getting them back. But the key is an educated workforce, and that's what we've been working on for the last 18 months. And the tough thing about being a state representative is you get 2 years, not much time. But in the last 20 months, I hope you've seen how hard I've worked and making sure we looked all across the board to protect and help people that work here and live here.
Thank you. Sheila.
Now, how do we make education more affordable? I'm going to tell you that we had 3 young boys at one time under 3 years old. We didn't realize how terrible that was until they went to college. And one way that we made higher education more affordable was that we worked with them as young children to make sure that they made the absolute best on the test scores that they could possibly make. We had 2 sons who had all tuition paid because they made good scores on the test, because that's what we started at home. Families need to look forward to that education and say, how are we going to educate our children? And let your children be a part of that education process. It makes it so much more important to them. They had a yard mowing service called Clean Cut Yard Mowing. They might have mowed some of your yards, as a matter of fact, for several years. And that's how they made money to save for college. We are all in this together. I noticed that much of the lottery money that was supposed to go to education has been used for other things this year. That money that's set aside for education should be used for education. And every one of us are in this together to get our children educated.
Thank you.
The Hope Lottery Scholarship has been very vital in helping middle-class families and poor families get kids a jump start. $4,000 a young man or woman gets when they go to a 4-year institution, $2,000 for a school like Columbia State, but they must maintain that 3.0 GPA or at least score 21 on their ACT. Those are important programs that have helped lower the cost, but as the economy continues to get more expensive and the lifestyle we live, tuitions go up, and that's a challenge for legislators.
Thank you. Sheila, any rebuttal?
Well, I would just agree that is important for them to get that scholarship money, to keep those grades up. If you can't maintain a 3.0, if you can't work that hard to keep your scholarship, I think those things are in place for a very good reason, and I go along.